I'm going to introduce a budgeting strategy that could change the way you manage your money forever. I know. Budgeting probably isn't the most exciting topic, right? You've likely heard about methods like the 50-30-20 rule, zero-based budgeting, or the envelope system. Maybe you've even tried one or more of them, only to find they didn't quite stick. If that's you, don't worry, you're not alone. In fact, a study by US Bank found that only 41% of Americans use a budget, and of those, many feel restricted, stressed, or guilty when they deviate from their carefully planned categories. That's because traditional budgeting can feel rigid and overwhelming. But today, I'm here to introduce you to a completely different approach, one that doesn't force you to put your spending into neat little boxes. This strategy is called value-based budgeting, and it's designed to help you align your spending with your personal values and goals. It's flexible, forgiving, and most importantly, it's sustainable. By the end of this video, you'll have the tools you need to create a budget that works with your lifestyle, not against it. Let's be real for a moment. Most traditional budgeting methods don't work for the average person. Why? It boils down to three major problems: rigidity, unpredictability, and emotions. Rigidity. Take the 50-30-20 rule as an example. It's simple on paper: 50% for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% for savings. But what happens when your rent takes up 40% of your income? You're suddenly trying to squeeze everything else into the remaining 10%, and that's when things start to unravel. The rigid structure of traditional methods doesn't account for individual circumstances or fluctuations in monthly spending. Unpredictability is unpredictable. A 2020 study by CNBC found that 61% of Americans experienced at least one unexpected financial emergency in the past year. Whether it's your car breaking down, a medical bill, or an impromptu family event, things happen that your budget can't foresee. Zero-based budgeting, where every dollar is assigned a job, falls apart the moment these unexpected expenses pop up. Emotions. Let's talk about emotional spending. According to research published by Psychology Today, nearly 62% of people admit to emotional spending, buying something as a way to cope with stress, boredom, or even happiness. Traditional budgets don't account for these moments. How many times have you bought something after a hard week at work, only to feel guilty afterward because it wasn't in your budget? In short, traditional budgets fail because they don't align with how we actually live our lives. They focus too much on what you shouldn't spend money on, rather than guiding you to spend money on things that actually make you happy and fulfilled. Now that we've outlined why most budgets fail, let's dive into what makes value-based budgeting different. At its core, value-based budgeting is about aligning your spending with your personal values and priorities. It's not about cutting back on everything, it's about focusing on what truly matters to you and allowing yourself the freedom to spend money on those things without guilt. Here's how it works. Identify your values. Think about the things in your life that bring you the most joy and fulfillment. For some people, it's traveling or dining out with friends. For others, it's building financial security, paying off debt, or saving for the future. There's no right or wrong answer here. Everyone's values are different. For example, let's take Anna, a 35-year-old marketing professional who loves traveling. For years, she tried to follow the 50-30-20 rule, but always ended up overspending on travel and undersaving in other areas. She felt guilty every time she booked a trip. After switching to value-based budgeting, Anna shifted her mindset. Instead of feeling bad about spending on travel, she allocated a portion of her income specifically to it. By cutting back on things she didn't value as much, like takeout and impulse shopping, she freed up more money for her travel goals. This brings us to the key point. Value-based budgeting doesn't restrict you, it gives you permission to spend on what you care about most. Reallocate your spending once you've identified your values. It's time to reallocate your spending. Instead of using traditional categories like groceries and entertainment, you create categories based on your personal values. Here's a breakdown of a value-based budget. Essentials. This includes housing, utilities, transportation, and groceries, the things you need to survive. Value-based spending. This is where the magic happens. You allocate money toward things that align with your values, whether that's travel, dining out, saving for a house, or investing in your future. Non-essential spending. These are the expenses that don't bring much value to your life: subscriptions you don't use, impulse purchases, or dining out just because you're bored. The goal here is to reduce or eliminate these expenses and redirect that money toward your values. Let's look at another example. Meet Ben, a 40-year-old software engineer who values financial security. Ben used to spend a lot of money on things like dining out and upgrading his tech gadgets, but he didn't get much satisfaction from them. After switching to value-based budgeting, Ben reallocated his spending to focus on building his emergency fund and investing for retirement. Now, he feels more secure and less stressed about his finances. One of the best things about value-based budgeting is that it doesn't require constant micromanagement. There are plenty of tools and apps available that can help you automate your savings and track your progress without spending hours poring over spreadsheets. YNAB, you need a budget. YNAB is a great app for value-based budgeting because it focuses on giving every dollar a job and aligning your spending with your goals. It also encourages flexibility. You can move money between categories based on what matters most to you. Personal Capital. This app is fantastic for tracking your spending, savings, and investments. It provides an overview of your finances, which can help you see how much you're allocating toward your value-based categories. Automation tool. Set up automatic transfers to savings accounts for your value-based goals. For example, if you value travel, you can set up an automatic transfer to a travel fund savings account each month. This way, you don't have to think about saving, it happens automatically. Incorporating automation helps you stay on track with your values without feeling the pressure of constantly monitoring your spending. Let's bring this all together with a real-world case study. Meet Sarah and John, a couple in their mid-30s who were struggling with their finances. Despite earning decent salaries, they felt like they were constantly playing catch-up with their money. Their traditional budget had them splitting everything into categories like groceries, entertainment, and transportation, but they found themselves overspending in random areas and feeling guilty about it. When they switched to value-based budgeting, everything changed. They sat down and identified their core values: financial security, travel, and spending quality time with their 2 kids. They cut back on things that didn't matter, like expensive clothes and unused subscriptions, and started allocating more money to things that aligned with their values. They began saving for a big family vacation, building an emergency fund, and even creating a college fund for their kids. Within a year, they had saved enough for a 3-week vacation in Europe, paid off one of their car loans, and built a 6-month emergency fund. They felt more in control of their money, less stressed, and happier with their financial decisions. So, there you have it. Value-based budgeting. It's not about cutting out all the fun stuff or tracking every single dollar. Instead, it's about aligning your spending with what truly matters to you. Whether you value travel, financial security, or spending time with family, this budgeting strategy gives you the freedom to spend on the things that bring you joy while cutting back on the things that don't. Here's my challenge to you. Try value-based budgeting for 1 month. Sit down, identify your values, and start reallocating your spending. See how it feels to spend in a way that aligns with your goals and priorities.